Oh, there it is. We are live. We're back. Welcome back to another episode number 5 of Reason, religiously educated atheists, secularists, and other non-theists. Psh, nailed it. Got it. All right, so today's episode is going to be on militant atheism. And what does that really entail? What is militant atheism? Is it really a thing? And how it is used to kind of, I guess, tiptoe along and allow the religious to kind of paint us out to be the bad guys as they usually do. Now, right now, we have Brendan, aka the Prototype Atheist, and Godless Glen in here. We are currently waiting on the Godless Engineer, but without further ado, we'll go ahead and do our specific advertisements. I'm Aeolus, aka your favorite atheist. I'm an admin over at Philosophical Atheism and Religion Hurts Humanity, and I also blog at religionhurtshumanity.com. I blog there, check it out. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at GodWorksOut, and if you find this video anywhere other than my channel, you can find me at the YouTube channel God Works Out.
Yeah, my name is Brendan. I am Prototype Atheist. You can find me on YouTube. I operate a channel there. I put out a video typically weekly. Try to do one video a week. A lot of my videos focus on religion, atheism related material. Sometimes I get a little bit into politics, but mainly focus on the whole atheism religion thing. A lot of times as it relates to science specifically. And I also, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. I create original memes and just generally active on there in discussions a lot of the time. So you can always find me there as well.
My name is Glenn, and I go by Godless Glen. You can find me on pretty much any social media platform. I spend most of my time on YouTube. My channel is youtube.com/godlessglen, and I focus mostly on atheistic-related topics, and I touch on some things about equality, gay rights, and just other things that are related to that. So, yeah, come check it out.
And why don't you, real quick, while we're still waiting for the Godless Engineer, we'll go ahead and talk about the most recent video that you've done for your channel. Brendan, if you want to go ahead and start that, and then we'll hop it over to Godless Glen.
Yeah, sure. The most recent video I just put out this past week was addressing the apologist John Lennox, and he answered a bunch of questions on this article on a website, some Christian website, and it was basically him putting forth 10 alleged arguments that atheists frequently used, and I wasn't very satisfied with his answers to these, so I pretty much went down each of these claims that he went and said that atheists use, and then his responses, and kind of addressed them individually. That video ran about 20 minutes. That was one of my longer videos. Typically my videos are not that long, but depending on the subject matter or what I have to say about something, it may run a little longer, but usually they're like 6 to 8 minutes. And some of my videos that I've done, I've addressed like intelligent design and evolution. I've addressed some political issues. I've addressed like gay rights, things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a variety of things that I try to cover, and I try to keep them interesting, and also try to keep the actual videos themselves short. So this week I'll be putting out a shorter video, and it'll be something a little unique, something that I haven't done before. So it'll be probably something interesting and different.
Was that the 10-minute video? The most recent one that you put out was a 10-minute video?
The most recent one I was the longer one where I addressed the claims. The one before that was shorter. might have been like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I
And
saw
that,
one that was really long, and then I was like, well, I don't really like to, especially with our group, when I watch our videos, I like to kind of sit down and enjoy it and not just kind of listen to it off in the background. It was really long, so I didn't have a chance to watch it yet.
yeah, and I understand that. And I know it goes with the territory. If you make a longer video, but some people just won't have the time, or they won't, it'll kind of turn them off to it. But sometimes you just have to address things, or there's just things you need to say. But yeah, the one before that was shorter. I think it was maybe like 10 minutes, and that one was addressing how religion was really mankind's first attempt at doing science, and then how it kind of evolved over the years as people tried to explain things that they didn't understand. So yeah, that I think was 2 videos ago.
Yeah, I tried to share that video on one of the Facebook pages, and I was assaulted by the atheists on it. And they were getting me about that. They were like, "How dare you call religion the first attempt at science?" And it got a little crazy. I just had to remove the video because it was getting trolled hardcore. So I shared it, but
Well,
then
see, that's why you gotta watch the video. You gotta see what it's about. That's how
right,
you
right.
get people's attention, if you put feel like that. And then once you actually get into the subject matter, you can understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I followed it, and I thought that it was a really good video. And I do think that the key word there is attempt. Religion was the first attempt at science per se, and basically trying to control everyone, but they did try. Godless Glen, want to talk about your most recent video?
Yeah, but first I'll touch on something about his video there. I've not seen it yet, and so I'll probably go check that out afterward. But to add a little more to what you were saying about that, Brendan, I think religion was the first attempt at everything, whether it's political, science. I don't know if you talked about that in your video or not, but religion was like the hub, for many ancient civilizations. I mean, this is their way of life. Kind of like how some people make it today here in America. But yeah, as far as my recent video, I did one on hate, and I really wanted to say a lot more, and I did it kind of reluctantly. I had this sneaky suspicion that somebody would get upset with me over making a video about hate, because people are worried about censorship and things like that. The whole point of my video was merely to say people should really think about the things they say, because I see a lot of talk. Excuse me, I'm still trying to recover from whatever I've had for the past month. And I see people speaking death to people in the comment sections, saying, I hope you get hit by a train, I hope you get run over by a car, just all kinds of nasty things over things that are just disagreements, mind you. And so people will have grudges against people. So I made a video. Yes, we've got one more. And that's basically what I made. I made that video in response to those kinds of things going on. And so yeah.
Okay, I see. Son, I'm doing something right now, so I need you to try to be quiet, okay?
All right, so GE, go ahead and mute there, because we got you loud and clear. I haven't been able to see your video yet either, Godless Glen. It's been a pretty crazy week for me, but I'm pretty sure, just like the rest of the content, it's going to be pretty good. So I will definitely. And the truth is, I watch a lot of these videos while I'm at work. Riddle me that. So I'll have plenty of time tomorrow to watch both of them. But anyway, so we're gonna, now that we have GE here, he's gonna be presenting the definition. Oh, did we just lose him?
Yeah, apparently.
All right, well, Let me follow up with him. There he is. We're going to let him go ahead and let you guys know, what is militant atheism? Is it a real thing? Because so often on social media, we're seeing that Christians, especially Christians, but there are Muslims as well, that are out there pushing this on social media and accusing people of being a militant atheist. I've been accused of that on Twitter. I'm sure everyone else has been accused of it as well. And there's also a page called Freedom from Atheism Foundation, which I guess they created to combat the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And that page has twice as many people on it than the Freedom from Religion one does, which is not really a surprise. But there are actually hundreds and hundreds of people that think that we atheists are out there to get them. And they really believe this. And if you read some of the posts, you'll see this. So that's why we really wanted to discuss this today, especially with the most recent news story that was the 10 Commandments being knocked down by this guy. And we're going to let Brendan talk about that. GE, are you here this time? Are you in there? In there like swimwear? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, man, so you can give them the breakdown of militant atheism. Is it a thing?
Yeah. I would definitely say so, and a lot of people think that militant atheism is pretty much just being a butthole about it, being all up in a theist's face or just a religious person in general. But that's really not what, at least to me, that's not what militant atheism is about. If you're going to be a butthole, you're going to be a butthole no matter if you believe in God or if you don't. With militant atheism, though, at least the way that I come at militant atheism is that I do want religion to disappear, and I want it to not be a factor, but I want it to happen through educating people, through providing them with good explanations for things, and by pretty much just educating people and getting them to realize themselves how much bullcrap is contained in religion. I really don't think that that's ever going to happen. I mean, we can try our hardest, and it would be awesome if one day that were to happen, but I really don't think that's that's really a feasible thing to expect religion to completely die out. But people always like to rag on militant atheism, but I really don't think it's that bad of a thing to be a militant atheist. That just means that you're not scared to put yourself out there, and you're not scared to stand up against people when they're being bigoted. At least that's what the militant atheism means to me. It's not being silent about your beliefs. And to be honest, when I first became an atheist, I was more of a silent atheist. And as I watched and I saw how much religion has its hold on our society, I decided to become a lot more vocal and a lot more out there. And I guess just what people perceive as a lot more in your face. But it's only in your face in conversations that I find myself in. It's not like I walk down the street and I find somebody that believes in God and I just get up in their face and tell them they're stupid and they're idiotic and everything like that. That's not being a militant atheist. Being a militant atheist is more about criticizing those archaic beliefs. It's more about criticizing those archaic beliefs and not being afraid to say things like, well, Muhammad was a pedophile, or there's rape in the Bible, and God condones it and He's fine with it. So are you really okay with that? Or asking a Christian, are you really okay with killing a homosexual just because they're a homosexual? I mean, that's in the Bible. And And me personally, I encourage everybody to be a militant atheist because, you know, we're not going to get anywhere by staying silent and letting people, you know, run over us, and letting people do things without suffering these repercussions of just being countered or questioned. And again, being militant atheist isn't being up in your face and being a butthole. It's about just not being afraid to point out, you know, things in a person's religious faith, and not being afraid to point them out, and not being afraid to tell them, well, you know, you're wrong about that. Like, you're wrong about, you know, America being founded on the Christian faith. That's just simply wrong. Or you're wrong about the idea that, you know, it takes morality to, or it takes God in order to have morals. And, you know, pointing out how the morality of the Bible has actually changed, like, over time, like what God condones and what God doesn't. So I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of people that disagree with me about, like, what it means to be a militant atheist or what militant atheism is. But I really don't. I've never seen militant atheism as a bad thing, as really in your face, being a butthole, calling people idiot thing. It's always just not being afraid to counter those that tell you that you're immoral if you don't believe in God.
Very good, very good. So, real quickly, I thought of something that I wanted to ask you here, because personally, I don't think that militant atheism is a real thing. I think that it is a perception that people have of outspoken atheists, but I don't think that you can ever have a such thing as a militant atheist, simply because atheism, as we continue to go over and over and over this, is just a lack of a belief in God. That's it. Anything extra that you do is completely unrelated most of the time to atheism, because it's just a simple lack of belief in a God. So anything else you do is a direct representative of you as a person and not atheism in general. So when people tend to think about when people tend to think about those militant atheists, like if I were to go on that page, the Freedom from Atheism Foundation, and ask them, well, name a militant atheist, the first person they're probably going to say is Richard Dawkins. So I wanted you to kind of touch on that, and the fact that what we're battling here is religious privilege, and talk about how, you know, just real briefly, how, you know, writing books that support science, logic, and reason have nothing to do at all really with being militant in the sense that they're using the term. Now, the way that you presented it, I can't agree with that, but going back to what atheism actually is, personally, I don't think there's a such thing. But an outspoken atheist, I can go with that.
Well, yeah, I was merely explaining what people have defined as, or what people, I guess, perceive militant atheism is. I mean, personally, like, just like new atheism, I really don't like the phrase new atheism or the term new atheism, because atheism, you know, has been around for a while. There's nothing new about it. But just like new atheism, militant atheism is just atheism with, you know. But there is a clear distinction in those that are atheists and don't want to really put themselves out there, and actually criticize others for putting themselves out there, and those atheists that aren't afraid to speak out. But a lot of people have labeled, like, militant atheists as those that aren't afraid of speaking out and actually do speak out against it. Like, for instance, you mentioned Richard Dawkins. I know Christopher Hitchens is another one that is regularly cited as militant atheist. But you see, that's why I defined it as I did, because Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, while Hitchens might be a butthole sometimes about things, the whole militant atheism part is just being an outspoken atheist, not being afraid to call religion what it is, not and pointing out the flaws in religion, and like you said, writing books about it, and educating the masses on it. And that's really what militant atheism is just being out there, putting your opinions out there, educating people, and just generally seeking to enlighten those that might believe in God, or those that already are atheists, maybe educating them on some counter arguments that they might encounter in their daily lives. Because even me, especially living in the South, I encounter a lot of religious talk at work and in family and whatnot. So that's what drove me to actually start looking up like the different counter arguments and information on it, and that's why me deciding to be more outspoken about it, and me deciding to be not being afraid to question those that pose those kind of things, and trying to educate people is why I consider myself militant atheist, if you had to even apply the label.
Right. So basically, to us, we're not so militant. We're just outspoken. But it is these religious people. Now we'll talk real specifically here in the United States, Christians, because they need to feel persecution. That is how they identify with their persecuted savior. Now, Brendan has a really good video on this called "The Christian Pseudo-Persecution Narrative." I believe that's the title of it. Is that it, Brendan? Yeah, you guys should check that video out. But they need to feel this persecution so that they can identify with their savior. And so when you have someone that is just simply speaking out, they may label them as militant because they're really looking for someone like, say for example, like the Cult of Dusty. He has this video of on his channel where he goes out and he kind of verbally attacks this street preacher and gives him a really hard time. And you've also got videos like the Yukon professor that verbally attacked these Christians that were on his campus, and they were going about doing this thing the right way. I mean, it's really still bad, but they were actually going about it the right way, exercising their free speech on campus, and they were verbally attacked by this guy. And that's really what they're looking for. That's what they mean by militant. They mean that they are under attack. So when they use the term, they're not referring to us just being outspoken, writing books, as you say, because that's how we define it. But we only have that word because they have used it to make us seem more horrible than we really are. Did you want to say? Anybody want to say anything about that before we go on to the next topic?
Yeah. I can agree with all that. I can agree with all that because this whole idea of them being attacked. There's actual people attacking them as a person, but then there's also this personal God idea. At least in Christianity, I'm not too sure about Islam, but in Christianity, there's this idea of a personal God, and a lot of people attach themselves to their personal God belief. And so when you criticize their personal God belief, they take it as you criticizing them personally, and so they might label you as militant atheist. Then, I do. Me personally, I don't like the atheists that are like pretty big buttholes for no reason. Like, if you come to me and you start saying a whole bunch of demeaning stuff to me, and I'm gonna respond back in kind, personally. But I mean, that has nothing to do with your faith or anything like that. That has everything to do with you as a person and how you initially respond or initiated the conversation with me. So it has nothing to do with your faith, really. I don't know how well I stayed on topic for that.
I think you said something very great a couple minutes earlier. It was something along the lines of a butthole is going to be a butthole regardless of what you believe in. I'm paraphrasing that, but I'm pretty sure that's along the lines of what you said. So I was going to go and let Brendan go next, but I actually want to switch things up, and I want to let Godless Glen go ahead because he actually wants to talk about the assertions that are used to define us as militant atheism. I hope that's the general idea and I didn't, ruin that for you. So without further ado, we're going to let Godless Glen go ahead and talk about that before we tread too far over his topic.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so I had went to, I think it was Rational Wikipedia, I think was the website, and I saw some things that I found interesting. They have listed some things here that these are some typical actions that can get any atheist branded as militant. These are, excuse me, campaigning against public and enforced prayer, particularly in schools. Of course, we know that schools really aren't supposed to be having prayers led by like the faculty and things like that, right? Or they shouldn't force you. They really shouldn't force people to say the Pledge of Allegiance and the under God bit. But when I was in school, I mean, that was pretty much a requirement. But let me move on here. Holding rallies against religious figures, questioning public policy on religion, such as running abstinence programs rather than teaching about contraception. And that's a dangerous thing when you've got school officials or just whomever that is telling people that abstinence is the only thing. Listen, I won't get into all of that, but that can be a dangerous thing because, I mean, we have more instances of pregnancy. I mean, these are facts. I mean, and we've got more instances of STDs. Questioning religious authority. The next one, stating openly one does not believe in God. So merely saying, I don't believe in God, can be taken as militant, because apparently you're supposed to just be this meek and mild, quiet little atheist that never opens your mouth about what you believe. And so that one is no shocker to me. Working against discrimination on religious grounds. I mean, so many atheists work, maybe not quite an activist, but they speak out against religious persecution of the LGBT community, and that can be seen as militant. Just watch any show by Pat Robertson or Brian Fisher, and we are just this militant group that is, trying, and all we're doing is trying to fight for equality. And the last one, writing books, and I'll add writing a blog post or posting a comment on Facebook. So literally anything you do can be viewed as militant to some of these Christian leaders. It's usually the Christian leaders that are labeling people as militant, not so much your everyday Christian, from what I found. I don't usually see just a common Christian saying, you're a militant atheist. But, I mean, they do exist, but it's mostly the leaders that are trying to pass that off. And it's bullshit. It's completely bogus. I mean, when I think of militant, I think of someone that's, I mean, just really, really aggressive. And and really more so than just with words. I mean, I don't even know if I would consider. I don't even think I would consider Dusty Smith a militant atheist. Not in the sense that I think is fair. Maybe you guys disagree with me. I mean, a lot of people think he goes too far sometimes, such as with the Mexican church ordeal. I've got some mixed feelings. I mean, he's very vocal about his beliefs, but I would still hesitate to even label him as militant. I mean, they're out there with their loudspeaker, they're expressing their views, right? And surely they have a permit to do that, right, when they do that. But if he goes out there and is it in any way confrontational, or anyone in general, if you're confrontational, then even atheists oftentimes will label you as a militant atheist. So I just don't know how I feel about that. And we see more and more people also using the term anti-theistic as well. I don't know if it's more popular to use anti-theistic over militant. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's pretty close to a synonym. And I think a lot of things that Christians say, and fellow atheists as well, is maybe not the most accurate or fair usage of that term. So I think that's pretty much all. I did want to just touch on one other little thing real quick if I've got time. One thing that I've noticed is that many Christians want freedom for them to express their views, but we're supposed to be quiet. You know, I mean, I hear so many of them say, why do you talk about something you don't believe in? I mean, are they really this naive? Are they really this oblivious to our arguments? I think a lot of them are being disingenuous there. They know that we have problems with discrimination. They know that we have problems with demonizing normal sexual behavior, and for them calling it deviant and immoral and an abomination and all these other terms. And they know our arguments of why we are being confrontational against religion in the sense of the public sphere and in the personal lives. Because really, let's keep religion out of people's bedrooms too. Let's not be telling grown-ass adults what they can and can't do. You know, so that's all I wanted to say pretty much about that. So, hand it back over to you, Aeolus.
I think that you brought up a really great point there, which is that anyone can fall under this definition of militant. And as you mentioned, you've got Brian Fisher, you've got Pat Robertson, you've got all of these other people out there that are actually being militant under their definition, and they really want us to be quiet. Like you said, it's okay for them to go out and speak out and be outspoken, but the moment that you walk out your door and become the slightest version of outspoken, or you write a blog or anything, suddenly you're labeled a militant. So the whole reason that we are having this discussion today, we're going to let Brendan go ahead and outline that for you, and it has a little something to do with the Ten Commandments statue in Oklahoma. By the way, I don't know if that guy was a militant atheist or not. We don't have enough information on it yet.
Well, so far it doesn't appear that's the case, but at any rate, yeah, you guys have made a lot of good points so far, and I agree with a lot of it. I do think that militant atheism is a thing. I think that it's hyperbolized a lot, though. I think it's a lot like, you know, the term Islamophobia, where it's actually a thing, but it's often misapplied where it doesn't belong. You know, to me, militant atheism is something, you know, like Stalin or Mao or somebody that's suppressing religion. And, you know, again, to clarify, those things aren't caused by atheism. There's no tenets in atheism that demand that that's the case. They're merely correlated. You know, dictators, totalitarians like that suppress religion in order to, make sure that the people focus on the state and the leaders and worship them and take them at their word and don't have any competing ideologies. But the Freedom from Religion, or the Freedom from Atheism Foundation, they like to throw that canard around frequently, all the time. They're constantly posting memes and things referencing that and trying to blame atheism and atheists for those kind of regimes and atrocities and things like that, and it's really dishonest. And it is unfortunate. My experience with them on their Facebook page earlier this year, when I first found out about them, I went to their page. I tried engaging them civilly and just rebutting some of their opinions and things, and they just pretty much weren't having it. They were just shouting over me, berating me. They eventually banned me. And I also noticed what they were doing too is with other people that were on there trying to debate with them. They were doing the same thing, but then they would also go to their personal profiles and find any public pictures of them and their family, including like their children, and then they would post those all over their page, and then make all these statements about them and how they're awful people and all this. So a lot of people have reported that page for like hate speech and stuff, and Facebook has allowed it to continue, which is really unfortunate because they're really extreme. But at any rate, it really depends on it's perception. You talk about people like Brian Fisher or Pat Robertson, and really what their aim is they try to paint their opponents, their ideological opponents, as the extremists. They're the normal ones. These people that are against us are the crazy extremists. So that's pretty much what it is. They're just trying to smear us with a label. Like I said, I do think that militant atheism is a thing, but it's not how they use it. They use it pretty much anybody who even speaks out at all against religion, who even will engage somebody in debate about religion or say that God doesn't exist or anything of that nature. They immediately try to label you as that, and it's just not right. But at any rate, yeah, about the Ten Commandments thing in Oklahoma there. So the latest information that I had was that basically it was like a mentally unstable guy, and he ran over the monument there at the state capitol in Oklahoma, and then later they caught him threatening to kill President Obama or something like that. The Secret Service was involved in all that, and then they said that he admitted that he was the one that ran into the monument. So as far as we know, he wasn't an atheist. He said the devil made him do it. So at any rate, he was clearly mentally disturbed. But even if he was an atheist, even if he was an atheist and he ran into that monument purposefully because he didn't agree with it, then I would think that would be an example of militant atheism right there, because that's not the way to go about doing things. The ACLU actually has had a lawsuit against that monument for quite a while now. The most recent development in that, I believe, was the latest court ruling was that they said that it was constitutional. That was an Oklahoma court ruling. I don't know at what level, but basically the judge bought the really terrible argument that the Ten Commandments isn't religious and that it has to do with the law, which is absurd because several of the commandments specifically relate to the Christian God and demand worship of it. And over half the Ten Commandments aren't even illegal in the United States. So to say that it's just related to the law and it's not religious is ridiculous. And then the other part of it is that there was other groups that wanted to have monuments erected alongside of it there. And basically the Christian majority politicians put a moratorium on any further statues going up at that location while they kind of discuss the state of affairs there. And the one that got the most press was the Church of Satan that wanted to put up the statue of Baphomet, and they actually raised the funds for it, and I think they actually made the statue, and they're ready to put it up whenever there's the opportunity to do so. And I did a whole video on this, I think maybe back in like April or so, called the Ten Commandments for Satan, kind of laying out everything. But I also wanted to go over a couple examples of the Freedom from Religion Foundation and things where I think they kind of cross the line, and which kind of hurts, us as atheists and kind of gives credence to this, militant atheism claim. For example, there's a high school band in Ohio that the performance they're doing this year is based on a work called Salvation, and so all the band members are wearing T-shirts with the word salvation on them, and that's it, just the word salvation. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation filed a complaint saying that that's patently religious and that they're trying to spread a religious message, but I disagree, because while that word certainly has a religious connotation to it, I don't think they're trying to spread religion through it. That's just the name of the piece. To me, if they were doing like the score from Jesus Christ Superstar and they wore T-shirts that said that on the front of them, that's, to me, is no different. That's not them trying to, promote Christianity. That's just happens to be the theme of their show for that year. So I don't have a problem with that. And I think trying to complain about that is, going a little overboard. And another example was I saw in Florida, because they've allowed Christian groups to pass out materials at a local school there somewhere. I don't remember exactly where it was. But like then the Freedom from Religion Foundation wanted to pass out pamphlets that had like a cartoon character of the Bible, like with a face and everything, and then it was like behind a student like trying to like attack it or rape it or something. And they wanted to pass those out to the kids. So I thought that was a little overboard too, especially for a high school. Maybe at a college, a place where it's not a mandatory education. It's, if you're going to college, you choose to go there, and you're a little older, more mature, and then you don't have parents involved and all that. So I think they went a little overboard there as well. There's a way to do it, basically. So I think that's the main difference is, there's a way to go about doing things. People who want to, ban religion is not the way to go. Like GE was talking about earlier, the way to do it is to educate people and to convince them that way. Not to forcibly, ban religion or tell them that they can't be religious. It's to get them to understand why they shouldn't be. That's the way to go about it. And I don't want to just completely rag on the Freedom from Religion Foundation either, because they do very good work. I'm definitely glad that we have outfits out there like that to advocate for our cause, and they do a lot of good work. I just think from time to time they kind of lose sight of things, or they get a little overzealous. So I just want to give one more example here real quick, and that was there was a high school in Georgia that had accepted a private donation of a Christian monument, and they put it up in the football stadium, and it had, Christian verses all over it, and basically the football players would go and they would rub it and touch it before the game, and they said it brought them good luck and all this, and it was just blatantly Christian, unconstitutional. And so they made a complaint, and I guess they're resolving it. The school's resolving it by they're going to cover up the Christian verses on the monument. So they're going to keep the monument there. They're going to cover up the religious references, and I guess that's a pretty decent compromise. So that's just an example of the good work they do. And it's just like every time you hear about these cases, like on Fox News and stuff, they always just want to complain about it and say how atheists are just complaining and being out of bounds and militant and all that. But that's not the case. Most of the time when they do these things, they have a legitimate complaint. And the other thing is too is they always mention like, oh, the Freedom from Religion Foundation out of Wisconsin, and then usually they're going after these things that are happening like in the Bible Belt. They always try to like act like they have no business being there, but they represent anybody in the United States, and they pretty much, as far as I know, they don't get involved in cases or anything unless they have a complaint from a local person, because if it ends up going to litigation, if there ends up being a court case, they have to have somebody that has legal standing in order to pursue that complaint. So if they don't have somebody that's actually local to represent the case, then they can't proceed with the complaint. So they do a lot of good work, and that's why they get involved all over the country. And so I think, as long as they're staying, they're not crossing that line, I think they do a ton of good work, and I really appreciate what they do.
Very good, very good. So you kind of lightly touched on my topic, which is there is a way about going and doing things, or there's a kind of sort of a right way and a wrong way to pursue our outspokenness with atheism. Now, real quick, I'll touch on those things that you were talking about there, because I am a member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, so it's kind of important for me to know, what my money is going to. So let's start with this pamphlet that they wanted to pass out, which had the Bible kind of assaulting a woman. The Bible had a face on it, assaulting a woman. And their thought here is that the Bible has all of this horrible stuff in there. And it does. Yet you are able to pass these Bibles out at this school and pass out all these other pamphlets and books related to this, but we atheists can't come in there and show you why this is wrong. Now, I'm going to agree and disagree with what they did here. I'm going to agree with what they did because sometimes it takes something like that to garner attention and show you that, hey, this is what this is really about. Is high school the correct setting for that? Absolutely not. Like you said, you have parents, you have all these other people involved, school officials, school boards. It's not, it's directly government funded. So then you're getting political with it. You're getting all these other people involved that should not really be involved in this. So they also had another pamphlet that they wanted to pass out, but I think it was denied. It was called Jesus is Dead. Now, I'm not familiar with that pamphlet at all, but just from the name, I can tell that it's probably a pretty bad pamphlet, and it's not the correct thing to be passing out at a high school. Regardless of whether you think the Bible is a terrible book or not, that's not the right way to go about doing things. And I'm going to touch on what I think is the right way after I cover the rest of these. So, with the salvation t-shirts, I'm kind of stuck on that one too. I kind of agree and disagree because I feel like religion has so much privilege in our society that if you don't call them out on their bullshit, if you just give them just a little bit of an inch, we already know that they're going to take a mile. Do I think personally that those shirts had anything to do with forcing religion on anyone? No, I don't. I don't care. Their band could be named, I don't know what you said there, but the expression you used, but maybe it was something along the lines of, the Jesus Christ band. I don't know. If that was their name and they put that on a shirt and that is their band name, I could care less, man. But at the same time, when you give them an inch, are they going to go for the mile? And that's kind of where you got to tiptoe. So I definitely going to go out here and say that I don't agree with the way that they pursued that one either. There was also talk about the Christian monument, and I'm very familiar with that Fox News broadcast where the football players got on there and they spoke about Jesus and their religion and all this, and how no matter what the atheists are going to do, we're going to do this anyway. And we run into a problem there where we have this kind of sort of enforcement of the religion at this school, and they're going to say, well, it's just a statue and nobody has to do it. But the point is that it's there. And imagine me being at that school. If I was a Muslim and I see that they have this statue, and I'm a football player, I'm a Muslim football player, and my entire team is going over there to rub this statue, I'm kind of feeling like out of place here. And that is just the face value. It doesn't cover all the behind-scenes stuff where they're probably going to humiliate him and kind of like try to force the religion on him, like, hey, man, you're not one of us if you don't go over here and touch this statue. So it kind of, you got to kind of draw the line. So now that we addressed that, I want to talk about how I think we should go about promoting atheism, if you want to say that. I don't really think that you can have militant atheism, at least not today. You can't. Probably the closest thing to that is North Korea at the current moment. But, the guy thinks he's a god over there, so technically that's not really atheism. But I think there is a right way about doing it. And one of the ways is talking about how atheism improved your life. Now, I went to Sunday Assembly today, and I did a poetry reading, and my poem was called Free. And the poem that I read was, and it was all about how religion, restricted me from being free, from being able to think what I want to think and ask the questions that I want to ask and pursue the knowledge that I want to pursue. And I think that what I did today was a great example of how I think that we should promote atheism. How does it improve your life? What has it changed for you? You can't just go around even though it's wrong, even though this stuff in the Bible is, against personal freedom, promotes discrimination, and everything else, suppression of women's rights, all that. Even though these religious creeds and this dogma promotes that, we can't always just go around and attack it. We have to show the positive side of things. And I don't want you to confuse this with positive atheism, because it's kind of a totally different thing there. But there's a positive way about doing it. Another thing that you can talk about is, how did you change as a person when you became an atheist? This is very important, because almost, I don't want to say almost all, but virtually probably all people go through a phase when they become an atheist where they either feel one of a couple things. They're either very angry that they were lied to their whole life, or they're very depressed that they were lied to their entire life, or they kind of withdraw and face isolation. And I think that those people out there, with the message that how atheism has improved your life, we can kind of direct that and not force them to be so angry so much. An angry atheist is more likely to be a militant atheist in these terms. Another thing that I see is that atheists, especially on social media, are always pushing science on people. When people are saying, oh, well, Genesis, I'll give you an example. Guy's commenting, he's talking about how Genesis explains the creation of the universe, blah, blah, blah. This guy comes out and he starts attacking him with all this science, has all these links showing, the Big Bang and all this other stuff. The guy still does not accept it. And when I saw that, I try to put myself on the outside and look in. And I kind of began to understand this, that not everyone is going to enjoy science. So we can't always push science on people like, hey, science has the answer, science is it. Because science does have the answers to questions that we have about the universe, or it can eventually find those answers. But you can't always push science on people. And I experience this a lot with my wife, because I love science. And the minute that I get to talking to her about, something new that happened in science or a new discovery, she will just be like, not again. So that's a really good example. Not everyone is going to be a scientific individual. So we have to, going back to what I said, how has atheism improved your life? A lot of people are religious for the emotional investment. There can be emotional investment in atheism. We need to talk about that. We need to get that out there. Running short on time here. But yeah. So we definitely need to show people the other side of atheism. We're not just about going out here and disproving your beliefs. We're also about having a better life. Essentially humanists in a sense. We care about you. We want to make life better for everyone on this planet. We want to become better people. And how has atheism helped you achieve that? And I think that is kind of sums up what I'm trying to say here about the way we should go about doing things. But it's not to say that you can never challenge that authority, because if you never challenge that authority, we'd probably still be, out there in the wild somewhere. You always have to challenge, what you know. And that's it, man. That's all I have to say about that. So I guess we're going to switch over to the discussion phase here and talk about this. Real quick, did you guys see that before this guy knocked down the 10 Commandments, he pissed on them? There's a picture. If you look at the picture, they're going to get me for this, but he pissed on the 10 Commandment statue before he ran it over, because you can see that it ran down the side of the statue.
Yeah, I've not been keeping up with it, honestly. Other than when it just first came out, I wasn't aware I just heard briefly something about his condition, and that was why they suspected he did that, running the statue over. But yeah, I didn't hear about that.
I wish I could figure out how to put the screen sharing on here. Brandon, you wanted to say something there?
I was just gonna say I did hear about that part of it. But yeah, I mean, going along with that, pretty much immediately they were all saying like, "Oh, we're gonna take up donations, we're gonna replace the monument and all that." And I just found that to be, odd, because given all the current litigation going on, like, is that really the first thing you're thinking of? Like, oh yeah, let's collect money so we can build a new one. Like, maybe you should wait for things to play out in the courts, and then like if they say like, okay, it can stay, then maybe you can put up a new one at that point. But then, of course, you have to realize that you're going to have to allow all the other groups, because I know for a fact the Church of Satan wanted to put a statue there. There was a Hindu group that had expressed interest in putting a statue there. And I don't know if it was serious or not, but there had also been mention of some kind of flying spaghetti monster monument going up in the same place. So, if they're going to put that up, then, they're going to have to understand that they're going to have to allow those other opinions as well. And you know how I feel about that too. I say go ahead and they can put up a Ten Commandments monument all they want. Go ahead and replace that one. Just this time, make sure they use the proper Ten Commandments from the Bible. Not the ones that they always claim are the Ten Commandments that are a little bit earlier in Exodus, but the ones in Exodus 34. If they want to put those up, I'm all in favor. They can go ahead and put those up, because people do need to know that they should not be boiling goats in their mother's milk. That's important stuff.
Yeah, to touch on that lightly, what he's talking about there, if you don't know, I'll just give you the real quick version of the story. So, when God gave Moses the Ten Commandments, so this is the scene. He's up on the mountain. He gets these 10 commandments. He goes down. He's all excited. And on his way down, he starts to see, just in a little bit of time that he went up on the mountain, these people have disregarded God. They took up their gold. They're making this, do I have this timeline right? They're making the statue of Baal. They're already worshiping all these other deities on his way down. He gets so upset that he breaks those 10 commandments. And he goes back up. Basically, I'm making this the short version. He goes back up, gets 10 new commandments, and God says in the Bible, I'm giving you the same 10 commandments that I gave you the first time. And that is mentioned in there 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 different verses. I'm giving you these are going to be the same 10 commandments. But it is not. He comes down with maybe like 2 of the commandments are the same, like the first one, and there's one that's similar. But he comes down with 10 totally different commandments. And then these become the 10 Commandments. These are supposedly the ones that were held in the Ark of the Covenant and things like that. So I just wanted to get the backstory on that real quick. Godless Glen?
Yeah. Sorry, he was kind of freezing up on my end. I don't know if it was my computer, so I missed the last thing that you said.
Well, I was talking about the 10 Commandments there, but I thought that you may have unmuted your mic there. I didn't know if you had something that you wanted to add to what Brendan was saying there about the statue.
No, I didn't really have anything else about the statue.
GE, do you have anything to say about the statue? I know you kind of missed it because you timed out there, but he was basically saying that if they are to put this statue back up, then they need to allow everyone else to put their statue up.
Yeah, and I agree that they need to let everybody put whatever statues they want back up if they're going to allow the 10 Commandments. I really don't think that they should allow the 10 Commandments because of some kind of idea that it's laws are based on the 10 Commandments. Because I mean, if you look at the 10 Commandments as a whole, only a couple of them are actual U.S. law. And then if you look at the punishments for most of the 10 Commandments, it's death. And, we're actually kind of moving away from the death penalty in general in the country. and you know, so I don't understand why these people want to put that up there and say, well, the law is based on it. It's like, well, no, it's not, because you know, if I deny God, I'm not going to get stoned to death in the street, you know, or if I sleep with my neighbor's wife, you know, I'm not going to get killed or anything. I can't remember if that's a particular penalty for that particular act, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. But when the Satanists had their monument come up and they were advocating for it to be put up there, I really just sat there and laughed for a little bit, because I'm like, oh, well, you know what? You got yours put up there, so now you have to live with this, with the Satanists wanting to put theirs up there. It's only fair. And when I heard that there was an actual dispute as to whether or not the Satanists should be allowed to put it up there, I was like, are you kidding me? Because, I mean, you have one religious organization that's being promoted over the others, obviously, and with the entire fact that you're having to discuss whether or not to allow another religious monument being put up there. I mean, the entire situation screams preferential treatment to Christianity. So, I mean, it's to me, they had the Ten Commandments up there before. Fine, if they want to put them back up there again. Doesn't change history or anything like that as far as the laws being based on the Ten Commandments. You know, but they're gonna have to, like, not even question, like, whether or not these groups want to put them up. Now, I say that because, like, whether or not a group wants to put up a monument should not be a question, but like, as far as allowing them to. But I do agree with them vetting, like, the statues that are being put up there. Like, if the Satanist statue was just a huge dick or something, and they just wanted to erect that right in front of the courthouse, that's not exactly. I wouldn't allow that to be put up there. I'd be like, no, you can put a statue. You just got to put something that's not a genital. But I wouldn't expect the Satanists to do that. But I'm just saying that the actual statue itself should be vetted, but not like, it shouldn't be an issue whether or not, like, the Wiccans or Buddhists or anything like that wants to put a statue up there, if they're going to allow the Ten Commandments. And it's really hilarious that the Christians, when the Satanists proposed their statue, they got all up in arms about the Satanist statue, like, oh, now Satanists want to put up a statue? What do you think we live in? A free society or something? And you know, it's just ridiculous, like, all around the entire situation.
I think there's also a huge problem there, and the problem is this: they're not really aware of what's going on. So just to make this clear, I'm not in support of any statue being up anywhere, but because we don't live in that perfect world and we already have this statue, then any other religion that wants to put up a statue should be allowed to. And in fact, I also think that if you're going to allow them to put up the Ten Commandments, because not all religions may have that political or monetary power that Christianity has. I mean, this is going to sound a little radical, but say, for example, like Wiccans, maybe they don't have the money to put their statue up, but if we're allowing everyone else to put their statue up, then the government should pay for them to put a statue up. And if you don't like that, if you don't like that and the government is not going to make it available for you to have the freedom to choose, then we should just take all the statues down. Another problem here is that Satanists are not necessarily the best group to advocate this, because Christians think that Satan is evil, and they think that this is their their duality, their evil version of duality, and to them this is an evil, horrible thing. I think that we need to, if we really want to let them see how ridiculous it is, then we need to choose another, like, I don't want to say like real religion, but a religion that doesn't consist of anything that is in their religion. So the Hindu statue is perfect in my mind because it's another religion, and they can't point it out as like, hey, that's Satan, that's the evil guy in my religion. You know what I mean with that? I think that is now. If anybody wants to put up a statue, that's great. And as GE mentioned there, it shouldn't just be a statue of Satan with a huge ass dong, because I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was an actual statue that was put up, I think, in Vancouver. Is that where it was?
I know it was in Canada. I'm not sure exactly the location, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. But the one that they wanted to put up in Oklahoma was, much more tasteful than that, if you will. I know it was like a Baphomet seated in a throne, and then there was a couple children on either side, and it was designed so that you could sit on it like a bench. But I agree with you that there really shouldn't be any religious monuments on government property, ideally, because there's no need to clutter up that space with everybody that wants to put one there. But if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But you got to allow equal access for everybody. Obviously the problem with that comes in is, like you mentioned, because the Christians are the majority in this country, and so they have much more available funds and support to be able to put up their monuments. So even if other groups wanted to put them up, they might not have the resources to do so. And it's not like they're just putting one up in Washington, D.C. or something, in the capital, of the United States. They can put these at local courthouses, state capitals, any government property that they want. So, they can be putting up hundreds of these, and you're not going to have the resources from other religious groups to be able to compete with that. So even if there is an open forum for people to express their opinion that way, it's still not equal just because of that fact. But I actually think that the Church of Satan, coming forward was great. It was brilliant because, not only was the lawsuit against the Ten Commandments there in Oklahoma failing so far, but, so it wasn't just challenging that to get it taken down. You had somebody else actually wanting to go ahead and throw their hat in the ring as well. And the fact that it's, actually the Church of Satan really isn't about Satan worship. They really use the mythological figure of Satan to kind of show the absurdity of religion and the hypocrisy of religion. So that's really what it's about. It's not really what Christians would view it as. But I think that's perfect, because it's like the antithesis to the Christian monument. And they think that that's mocking them. But I think it's perfect because also in Oklahoma recently they had a case where the Church of Satan wanted to do a black mass where they desecrated a host, from a communion host, and they were all up in arms about it. And it's like, okay, so wait, you can literally believe that somebody is casting a spell on a cracker and turning it into the flesh of a demigod for people to eat in a cannibalistic ritual, and that's okay, but then somebody who wants to mock that and make fun of that is not cool. You're not going to allow that. That just seems crazy to me, So, they're okay with this one insane idea, but then making fun of that idea is somehow offensive to them. So I actually think that's a good way of going about it, and I'm glad that there's people that can take that approach, because atheists and even humanists, they don't have that approach. They don't have a recognized religion to actually be able to directly oppose what they're doing. So I'm glad that there's now groups out there that have the ability to do that.
As you mentioned there, I do think it is the perfect antithesis to that religious monument, but the issue that I was trying to draw there is more along the lines of they don't really get it, though. That's the problem. We get it, we understand, and it makes perfect sense to us how ridiculous it is, but they just simply don't get it. So I'm all in support of, if they're going to have their statue up, as I said, everyone should have a statue up. And if you're also going to use the government in that way to promote your religion, then the government can use funds to put up a Wiccan statue or even an atheist statue or anything like that. I seen that GE had something that he wanted to say there.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that I think the Satanists are the perfect ones to advocate for putting up a statue, just because, the Christians advocate to get their Ten Commandments put up. It's like, they passed through. We're still fighting it, but oh well. Then the Satanists pop up. They want a statue. And then you're just standing there with your hands in your pocket like, well, you got yours put up there. We have to let theirs, or otherwise it's a violation of the Constitution. So you have to let them do it. But of course they bitch about it. But it's just I guess from my point of view, because I don't have a stake in Christianity or Satanism, it's just kind of funny to watch, just because the Christians, they have a brain shart about it, and the Satanists are just like, what? We just want to put up a statue. What's going on? I don't understand. What's going on? And and another thing that makes it funny is the fact that both Islam and Christianity have specific verses in them that condone rape and everything like that, but yet Satanism, it specifically says not to, I forget the actual wording of it, but it says not to make unwarranted sexual advances. That's one of the main things. And so it's just kind of like, hey, look, here's religion. Here's the better religion, if you can call it that.
There was a billboard that was put up, and I did a video about this. The Jesus is a Muslim billboard that was put up, and I just think that it's so hilarious to me that you can put this statue of the Ten Commandments up, and this was a great victory for Christianity, and then the statue is knocked down, and then, oh no, this was so terrible, we need to find this guy and crucify him and put this statue back up. But the minute that they see Jesus as a Muslim on a billboard, you guys got to see that preacher's reaction. He freaked out big time. Godless Glen, do you have anything that you would like to add to this? Special shout out to all the viewers on YouTube. We have a couple comments that we will get to after Godless Glen says his piece.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, just to just wrap up on that part, I agree with you. I mean, what you guys are saying about that. I mean, they've opened up a can of worms with allowing certain Christian things on public property. So, I mean, hey, but yeah, it's really not the place for it. It doesn't offend me, though. I see oftentimes some people get all up in arms about certain things like crosses or whatever. Those things don't bother me a bit. But I understand that some people were like, well, it's unconstitutional, so let's sue them or whatever. So I just have a more relaxed approach about it. I really do. I do think sometimes that there are lawsuits that are placed. I'm like, really? But yeah, it's just the way it is. But I think on the other parts that we were discussing earlier about militant atheism, I think all of you guys did an excellent job. I really thought you really nailed it perfectly, all of you, even the very perspective on it. But really, it's pretty much the same thing. Whether or not we want to accept the label militant, it's a label, but the fact of the matter is the content of it. A label describes what the contents are, and I don't really see militant atheism. I really don't see it here in America, not from my understanding. But yeah, I think you guys really nailed that perfectly. So I wanted to give you guys congrats on that. So that is all.
Thank you very much. You guys all do a fine job every single time. Real quick, shout out to our viewers over on YouTube. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Let's check out some comments here. We got a comment here that I can't really read, so we're going to skip that one. Send me a message, and we'll address that comment. I can only see half of it. It just says, if that makes sense, with a smiley face. We've got Fiction Fighter here. I don't like arrogance anyways from anyone, even people who think they know a lot more than the average person. And that's right, but it tends to happen. If you get a chance, check out The Curse of Knowledge. Google that and read up on that and see what you can get. And see if you can understand how a person could become arrogant after a set amount of time not being able to show someone else or instruct them or give them this specific knowledge. He says, but especially when stupid people are arrogant, for sure. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Especially those ones like Joshua Feuerstein that claim to know about science and commit 1,000 fallacies in less than 10 seconds. How about religion just keeps their statues off public property? That would be perfect in the ideal world. But we don't live in the ideal world, and the Christians have their statues up, and this is the only way that we can go about getting them down or sort of amending the problem. Thanks for agreeing with me, Prototype. He's got one fan out there. Don't forget to go check out his channel. He has a lot of great videos. I don't think government money should be used for any religious crap. And I can go ahead out on a limb here and speak for everyone in this group. We don't either. We think that the government should be completely clear of religion. The analogy that I was using there is that if they're going to allow, Christians to have their statue, then they also, because for the principle of them using the government money, status, power to promote that religion, then it's only fair that we would give money to other religions to put up a statue if they couldn't afford it. We don't want to do that, really. We just want to get rid of all the statues. That's all we really want. We don't even want a statue of Satan erected. If it takes a statue of Satan to be erected for them to understand, okay, we want this statue of Satan down, so let's take down the 10 Commandments and Satan, that would be freaking perfect. That would be great. So, real quick, we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to let Brendan wrap it up with Stalin and Mao really quickly, because as I mentioned earlier, atheism is not going to be responsible for most of your actions. Atheism is just the lack of a belief in a God. So anything that you do in addition to that is representative of you as a person. It is not the atheism that is causing it or doing it. And I really wanted you to touch on this real quick, Brendan, and then we'll get on out of here for tonight. Just because this one is important. I keep seeing it every day.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier, and I did a whole video on this, and it's called The Reason for God Because Atheism Equals Communism. And it was basically responding directly to the book, The Reason for God. I started reading just the first chapter, and that was like within the first couple pages, like immediately that came up. He was talking about communism and how these totalitarian regimes, because of atheism, did all this horrible stuff. And that's why we need God, and that's why we need Christianity. And it's just simply a canard. It's just a fallacious argument. There is nothing in atheism that says you have to be nihilistic. There's nothing that says you have to, commit atrocities or do evil things. I mean, there are plenty of atheists out there, the vast majority of atheists out there, living perfectly decent lives, not causing harm to people. I mean, obviously, there's going to be atheists that are, assholes, like we've kind of been discussing this whole time. But, that's just people are going to be people. And basically what it comes down to is that evil is a human problem. It's not a religious problem. So there's going to be evil people regardless of if they are religious, if they believe in a God, or if they don't. And trying to blame atheism for the cases where people don't believe in a God and they commit evil or they do these terrible acts, that's not really being fair. That's really painting with a terrifically broad brush, and it's just basically goes back to this whole idea of, just trying to smear and discredit all atheists, because basically, throughout history, theists are not used to having to defend themselves or their beliefs, and they're not used to being questioned or having to answer arguments. And so when we bring things to their attention, or when we're trying to tell them why they're incorrect or why their arguments are not logical, they immediately just put up their defenses, and they're like, oh well, look what atheism does, and you guys are militant and all that. So I think that's what it all comes down to, is just they're not being honest about it, and they immediately just put up their defenses, and they're not just used to having to deal with being confronted with that. But I think the most important thing is here, to wrap it up, is to to be civil, to do it the right way, to be positive, to present yourself in a positive manner, to use valid arguments. We don't want to attack people personally, even though I know that theists a lot of the time will take things personally, as we kind of discussed earlier, because it's their most deeply held beliefs, and it's hard for them to separate themselves from their beliefs, so they do take it personally. But you can only do what you can. If they're going to perceive it that way, we can't do anything about it. We can't remain silent like we have for far too long. So I just think that's the most important thing here, is to just keep it positive and don't give them anything that lends credence to their accusations of us being unfair or, quote unquote militant.
All right, guys, and that is the end of the show. Special shout out to all our viewers on YouTube. I see some of you came early and left early. Some of you came late and stuck with us for the show. Thank you for watching. We do this every Sunday at 9 p.m. Now we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up, starting with Brendan there, a.k.a. the Prototype Atheist. I support these guys 100%. They all make great content, so please share their content. Please continue to watch the videos, and hey, if you get a chance, come on down and join our live stream.
Yeah, thank you. As always, I just want to thank all of you guys, Glenn and Aeolus and GE over there. You guys did a great job as usual. You know where to find me, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So yeah, go ahead and check me out if you haven't already. I put out about one video a week, so I think this week's video is going to be a little bit something different for you guys. So make sure you check it out. Should be putting it up about Thursday this week, so stay tuned.
And I am the Godless Engineer. You can catch me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on everywhere. Hey, don't worry about it. You can find me at all those places. Do please look me up, and also look all these guys up. Watch their videos, and comment on their stuff. They put out all really good stuff. So. Y'all have a nice night.
Yeah, you can find my channel youtube.com/Godless Glen, and I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/Godless Glen, and you can add me as a friend there. I pretty much accept any atheist and Christians as well, actually. So you guys can connect with me there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Tell them we don't discriminate. As you guys know, my name is Aeolus, a.k.a. your favorite atheist, and this has been another installment of Reason, Religiously Educated Atheists, Secularists, and Other Non-Theists, also known as the Secular Round Table. So, without further ado, we're going to end this show. We know we've taken up too much time tonight. If you find this video anywhere other than my channel, you can come to my channel. It's God Works Out. I make satirical Christian videos and atheism-related videos. Check all of these guys out. Make sure you check out their videos, like their videos, share their videos, subscribe to their channels. Yeah. You can find me at God Works Out on Twitter and everywhere else. And as always, thanks for watching.